Come here now, girl.
Hello and welcome to WhatsMap, your one-stop shop for everything workshop. I'm BonBonB and you're very, very welcome. And when I say one-stop shop for everything workshop, what I mean today is your one-stop shop for everything DLC. And when I say everything DLC, what I mean is airports maps. That's what we're checking out today. We don't really care so much on this channel about functionality of airports, or we care a little bit, but we do care about where we're going to build them. And as the previous DLC and base game maps have been so good, I figured we need to check these ones out just to make sure they're up to standard. Now, if you're here to see the content creator pack from Sanctum Gamer, well, I've kind of run out of time this week. These 3 maps took me long enough. An extra 8 maps, and I have no daily show next week. So if you want to catch the content creator pack specials coming pretty soon, I guess there's only really one thing you could do. Ah yes, like, subscribe and notification bell is a really good way of staying on top of upcoming content. Thank you for your ongoing support. Today's first map is Asanu Beach by Airports DLC. I thought I'd put that in rather than Colossal Order or Paradox because we want to be clear that this is only available on the Airports DLC. There's your start square, which is, it's fine. I don't know what more to tell you. It's fine. Terrain heights. All today's maps have plenty of room for airports in various places and locations. So that's all good. Resources are very standard for a vanilla base game style map. They're perfectly good. And of course, if you've got Sunset Harbour and you want to do some fishing, your fishing map will look like this. Now I'm going to hand over to a specially pre-recorded, a younger BonBonB. And so down to ground level and our quick live recorded flyover of the map. Oh, it has a lot of the things that I was expecting from a map from an airport DLC, in that it has a flatness to it. There's no argument about that one. There's definitely plenty of predetermined flat areas. We're not completely constricted by mountains and hills. But there are definitely, as you can tell on the left-hand side, just disappearing out of shot now, some interesting feature areas. And by interesting, we'll get to them a little bit later. There's definitely stuff to talk about with them, and I do like things that are there to talk about. Nice equidistance on the highways. That makes me think that they've used the parallel road tool to work the highways. There's nothing wrong with using mods to build a map, especially a map that's going out to the masses, and you don't need the mods to be able to play it, but it's just good to have. It's good to have some nice parallel roads. Is there a little bit of a jinky janky going on there? We've got a tiny little janky going, bending off to the right there. Could just like pop. It's not a huge problem. It's not a huge problem. It just it's like the unnatural bend there. Then we come down to the wishbone. There's the wishbone there. And these things are classically over height. Classically, we're going to see some very good bridges later on. But this one, it just, I mean, look how steep it is down there. How are these trucks in real life going to manage all that? Yeah. Anyway, we won't laugh anymore at the vanilla wishbone, but yes, we've got that one there. Then we have got a suspension bridge, which is clunky as well. See, we've got all this extra height going into it. I don't mind the height of the bridge in total, but again, the steep ramp leading up to it. Then we have the pillars in the middle of the river, where you would normally, on a river like this, you'd have a pillar on either side. And then a sharp turn, and then a sharp drop off back down to ground level. It's very base game, isn't it? The classics are always the classics, but there is plenty of good stuff. You think I'm laughing away, but you won't. Is there any good stuff on this map? There is actually some good stuff. A little bit of glitching between two highways because of elevation. there's definitely some good stuff, and I'll be pointing out the good stuff as well. Always the case. I try to be fair, and even. Here's your start square intersection, which is on the main highway through. Looks pretty decent. If we put the lines of terrain on, you'll notice that this is probably not where you're going to be building your airport. This is where you're going to start your city off. This is fine though. This is fine. You've got to build your city to a certain size to be able to access your airport. And then if you look on the other side of the river, that area over there is plenty flat enough here to be able to expand into. So I'm good with that one. It definitely feels like it's had some thoughts thrown into it. Then we'll head down to this bridge. Now this bridge goes to show that vanilla wishbone with all the elevations, and then you get a nice little bridge like this one. This one just feels like it was made by somebody who's actually built stuff in Cities Skylines. This is very nice indeed. The rail, this is more of a fantasy style map than a realistic map. I'll show you why in a short while. But the rail does kind of uppy downy a little bit. As we come, we've got a slight, again, put lines of terrain on, slightly down, and then we've got a slight bump here before we get to the bridge where there's a slight up again on. So there's little bits of ups and downs, but for the sort of map that we're looking at here, this is going to be absolutely fine. Your typical vanilla player isn't going to worry too much about that. We'll switch across to the rail now. The highway does continue off to the edge of the map up there. The rail comes in from over here and then continues through. Now there's a little thing coming up with the rail that again I'm quite pleased with, and there's always point out the good stuff as well as the bad stuff. And this one's in terms of detailing. And I'm using a mod called Anarchy, which allows you to show prop detailing through the underside of networks. And we go, we're just going to cross this dry river. Again, this bridge, it's pretty good. It could be a little bit slicker. We've got a little bit of an elevation going up to it. The rail line would be a completely flat track going across there. Again, we're not going to worry too much. We've got an abandoned little industrial village going on here. Quite liking the work that's been done with the logs there, again making it look like it's been worked this area, and also the way that the vanilla pier here has been clipped into the terrain is very nice indeed. And we'll be coming back to this. This is key to my main talking point for the map. This vanilla pier, we'll be talking about that in a few moments. Let's just carry on with the rail. I want to show you we've got an abandoned rail line here, and the foliage is on the abandoned rail line. So if you're playing with prop and tree or tree anarchy or fine road anarchy, I'm not entirely sure which one of the anarchies it is now. There's so many anarchies, but yeah. So if you're playing with anarchy and you have your prop anarchy switched on right at the loading, you're going to have a little bit of detailing on the underside of the abandoned rail, which is very nice indeed. So anyway, and that's your networking. Let's have a quick look at what I consider. We'll come back to this. No, we're not going to forget about this. For me, I was very pleased with the beaches. Now, forget about the cliffs over here. The cliffs over here are out of the 25 tiles. So for me, these don't matter too much at all. They're just for backdrop. We've got an essential lighthouse over there as well. But the beaches have been done really quite nicely, quite pleasingly. I'm good with all of these. They're just a good shape. They're very big. And you'll see a very, very big one in a moment. I don't know so much about these islands in the middle of the river here. These just feel a bit, like an addition to make it a bit more interesting. Don't really work for me, but they're all right. They're all right. But then you get back to the beaches, and the shapes of the beaches just feel very pleasing. And the rock work over here as well. I'm liking the rock work in the water. That's a very nice touch as well. Shapes of the beaches are very good as well, and we can see a high tide point or something going on here, and just about the right amount of foliage, palm trees and such like that running along the beach is all good. Now, I did say this was more of a fantasy map than a realistic map, so let me show you why that is. And that is partly because of this river here, which in itself feels very natural and believable. But we also have this river over here, which, I mean, this feels forced, this river. How it's managed to cut that canyon there, the natural curve on that, it just doesn't feel like it would happen. And then of course we got the 2 exits out of the lake. As somebody who's made a lake with 2 exits and was pulled up on it by the community, I can point out that this is something that is easily done by a lesser map creator, which is what I was back in the day. Hopefully we all improve. And we do have a castle. Ooh, it's a castle right up here as well. Let's castles go, that'll do, actually. Yeah, I applaud the positioning of that castle, and the basic design seems plausible. So then we have another abandoned village over here. You'll see that they've got a lot of base plates on the buildings glitching, which means that we have things like droopy cars. Again, it doesn't matter. These things don't matter. That car's been placed there on purpose, by the way. That's a prop. So that's been put there on purpose. On an airport's map where it's deliberately flat, that should have been possible to have avoided the glitching around the buildings there. But it's still a nice little area. I don't mind the area at all. But there was improvements that could be made. Then if we head back over this way, we have this dry river. Now the dry river, actually, you can see where it supposedly comes out. In fact, you can see a little bit of detailing along there to highlight that this was indeed a river. Now, this is, take my word for it, I've done the terrain height checks. This is higher, this is lower, so the river was actually feeding down into the river and then looping off back down. So I think what I would have liked to have seen on this river mouth here, just where it joins in, for it to be just a bit smoothed out, so the water would probably have worked out a smoother route around here. But hey, listen, it's a fantasy dry riverbed. Let's not worry too much about it. But if we head on up to the top here, this at first glance up here looks pretty amazing. So we've got the dry lake that used to host the top of the river. How the water got here, I'm not entirely sure, but this is where, and you can see the outline of the lake, and it definitely makes a lot of sense, you think? Yeah, let me show you. Let's go back to this vanilla pier. This is going to be a good gauge as to the height of the river once it was live and it was thriving and we had industry and we were shipping out logs or whatever down this river onto the main river. Now, if I put these lines of terrain on here, now to be fair, you got this area here is, you can imagine this is sand that's filled in over time, so this is probably a little bit deeper, so we can't assume that this is the original river depth, but we can assume that the placement of this pier here would mean that the depth of the water was probably around about this line here. Yeah, let's just round it up and say this heavy line here, just because this is going to be easy for us to track. So this heavy line here is the high river point. It'd be slightly below that, but let's just roll with that because that's easy to track. Let's track it. And we follow it all the way. It's quite a long way in from the top of the lake there. And just look where it leads us. We are assuming that the lake would fill all of this. All of this area here is going to be underwater if we are going to recreate the lake as it all the way up there. It's a nice design feature. If you are thinking though about filling this lake up and recreating the original waterway, you're going to have a big flood over this part of the map. So the reason why I'm pointing it out, because I thought it was an interesting feature, but I know there are people there who would like to recreate and take things to the next level and bring this part of the map back to life. Well, don't. Just don't. Because it's going to be a disaster. Anyways, so all told, I think it's an interesting map. I'm not super excited, but I think this dry lake is a nice feature. I quite like the shape of the river. I like the way that the start square has been separated away from where the airport probably be on the other side of the river. The beaches are good. This feature area up here is almost excellent. And it's got just about enough clunky vanilla stuff in there for us to remember that this is indeed a Colossal Order map. And so handing back to an older BonBon for the second link. This one is a temperate map. Previous one I didn't mention was tropical. I'm going to mention was a tropical map, that last one. This one, temperate map, and again, all of the good stuff that you'd want and some of the good stuff that maybe you don't want as well. Second map is Hanami Bay by Airports DLC. Airports DLC, the only place that you're going to get this. It's an interesting shape again. I think there's definitely credit for that. A start square, plenty of buildable. If you need more buildable space than that, you're in the wrong game, okay? The height map, plenty of flat buildable space around the map to get into. Resources, if you want to play resources, are a little bit stronger, I think, a little bit stronger and blotchier than the first map. And of course, if you've got Sunset Harbour and you want to do some fishing, your fishing map will look like this. Now, where did that younger BonBon go? I need to hand back over to the good looking fellow. Oh, here he is. So when you get down to ground level on the second map, there's plenty of reasons to like this one. But there's also plenty of why oh why moments. For a start, these bridges, this first bridge, again, we have the pillars. Why would they have had pillars in the water? Well, it doesn't really matter too much on this map. Again, these maps are pandering mostly for console or the vanilla community, and both these bridges are actually just outside of the 25 tiles. So strictly speaking, these don't matter too much. Also, yes, we've got one or two trees underneath the roads that won't show through if you're playing in vanilla, so don't worry about those. I always show them just so that we know what is actually hiding underneath the roads. Second bridge here is fine. I don't mind the span of that. That's okay. A little bit clunky the way it comes back to land, but again, as I said, this is out of the 25 tiles, even if it is only just. And so most people are never really going to notice that. And then as we work our way around this hunk of soil, which we're going to call a small mountain, we open up and we get the map open up before us. It's an interesting shape, the double river. I kind of like this one. It's nice to see something just a little bit different. And the way that the islands work out into the bay there, again, great if you want to run with ferries, or if you're looking to do something just a little bit different. Maybe you could build your airport on one of these islands, although I will show you in a moment where I think the logical place for the airport, for me, where the logical place is. We get a slight change in the intersections here. We got one of these trumpets. It's fine. It's not the most polished, but it's good to see that it actually looks a little bit slickly worked and not just plopped in and ignored. Down ramps are a little bit on the steep side, but it's way better than the average base game intersection. And then heading down to some more bridges where I'm going to again grumble about pillars in the middle of the rivers. The river's as narrow as this. The whole point of building a bridge is to go over the river, not build something right in the middle of the river. If the river is wide, then maybe you would have a pillar on one side, a pillar on the other side, and just it. But that just doesn't make much sense at all to me. And then we've got another one over here, which is actually, well, it's wonky. Much higher on one side than on the other. Could easily have been resolved by if we'd started the bridge at about this point and just have it extending over. It really made it a lot more believable, a lot more flat. Is all good. But again, the shapes of the rivers are leading down to this area. Oh, yeah, we've got a divergence there, but even so, I think this is quite nice. Quite nice. The shapes of the rivers and of the islands and the core of the map itself. Then we come down to, oh goodness me, yes, it's the wishbone. And yes, it's incredibly high. And yes, we've got the steep. I mean, just how steep. The donut van has to jump to start climbing that one. Are you going up that way? Yep, they're having to fly. Having to absolutely fly. Anyway, then we're going to head down towards the start square. We'll just ignore that for now. There is two stretches of a rail on the map, and I'm applauding to a degree the rail on the map. We'll get to that in a moment. There's your start square intersection, and thank you for, if you're going to do wishbone, doing something a little bit different, and it looks pretty slick. I mean, not absolutely top level, but thank goodness we've actually tried. There are points for effort here, and I'll applaud it. Yes, there's more that could have been done to make this into a slick intersection, but this is way better. This is leaps and bounds better than what we were looking at previously. And then that leads down here to the start square. Now, for me, the start square, I mean, it's fine. It's fine. I am not excited by it. It's all right. It'll do. But for me, the obvious place for the airport is over here. Let's put the lines of terrain on. You can see it's pretty flat. There are one or two undulations going on here, but again, the airport's DLC will flatten the land for you anyway. But having flat land to start off with means you don't end up with any really ugly gouging going on. If we look over the other side, you can see we do have hills working up in that direction there, and you can see the ridges working all the way down towards the river. So for me, maybe you go for the airport on this island, possibly big island there, but I think the logical place is right here, right by the start square. Now we have got, as I did say, we've got some rail. The road's going to go all the way off over there. We've got two stretches of rail. What excites me with this one a little bit is the fact that we've managed to not just follow the terrain down the hill and then back up the hill on the other side, which we would have seen 6 years ago. So that's a little bit of a nod to that. Yes, we're following a little bit of a undulation going up here. So realism be damned, but you know what? It's a lot better than ye old maps of old. And then we have another rail line coming in over here to everybody's favourite factory. Here she is, and this is okay as well. This is okay. Sometimes imperfections make something better. I'll leave you to decide whether the misaligned central pylon there is an imperfection that you like or not. That's simply node placement. If I go into move it and show you, we have node, node, node. We can fix that by moving that to there. And yes, I bodged it a little bit, but you know what? Yeah. Maybe you liked it as it was before, and you wouldn't be wrong. It's down to you. We've got a few little lakes going on here, which are fine. Again, reasonably okay shaped lakes, nothing too exciting. I've showed you the shapes of the rivers and the river mouth, and that's all good as well. In terms of shipping routes, because I know that you're very interested in shipping routes here, we do have the right angle turning going on here. Oh, come on, guys. Shipping triangles, and a loop around up there, which again doesn't need to be done. It just needs to be a dead end. That would be absolutely fine for that. And of course, we had air routes there as well. In terms of extra features, we've got some rugged hills over here. For those of you that like your rugged hills, we do have a little castle in a loopy. How do you get in there? Well, if you think getting in there is a problem, wait until you see what we've got elsewhere. The entertainment we got from this map in terms of castles. There's your first one. Let's come all the way down to this one. This one I quite like. This one's quite pleasing. We've got this nice curved wall. Shame it doesn't quite match up with the tower. I think that would have been just a little bit nicer. Fall short of the tower there as well. You've got this clean wall. Had that been like slightly rubbly wall, and there are ways of doing that one, then maybe. But yeah, it does feel a little bit rush plopping of the towers. But then we got this, and we got a little bit of nice detailing here with the little path marked out with the old standing stones going down to the cemetery. That in itself, I quite like that. I give credit for that. Also got a little, there are little areas of other detailing as well, such as that going on there. But there's one more castle we have to look at before we wind up this map. And yes, of course, we do have the occasional essential lighthouse with absolutely essential sunken ship. Attracted, those lighthouses are like moths to a light bulb. Moths to a light bulb. Anyway, yes, this one is BonBon's Labyrinth and makes absolutely no sense at all. So trying to work out how to get in, work out how to get out. Out the door, dead end, and dead end, and dead end. It's absolutely mystically ridiculous, and I don't think it adds anything other than a talking point to the map. A map that doesn't need a talking point. It's a good shape. I'm not so sure about the shapes of the highway. It's as highways go. This highway connection here is going to get very busy with dummy traffic. But other than that, as maps go, it's an interesting shape. And again, a couple of decent spaces for the airport. And back to older BonBon for the third of our 3 maps today. This one, Boreal, and made by somebody completely different from the first 2 maps. I don't know why they didn't get this person to make all 3. I really wish they had, actually. The third map is Noyou Port by Airports DLC. Noyou or Noyou, maybe, possibly. But I'm going Noyou. Noyou Port, Airports DLC. Let's have a look at that start square. Start square there. How much more interesting is that? While still having plenty of buildable space as well. We have got terrain heights again, which allow for plenty of airport space in there as well. Very nice. And then if you want resources and play the resource game, resource map is a little bit spittly, but it'll do. And of course, if you've got Sunset Harbour and you want to do some fishing, your fishing map looks like this. One last journey around the map with a slightly younger me. And so finally, a map which certainly looks like it's been made by somebody who's made maps before. This one, geologically speaking, feels really, well, leaps and bounds above the 2 maps we've seen previously. Now, there are definitely charms in the 2 maps that we saw previously. They may be exactly what you are looking for. If they are, go ahead and play them. My feedback is only general, whimsical waffling as a rule. But this one does feel like, we do have 1 or 2 trees hiding under the roads, but they're few and far between. Ignore them. They'll be fine. They'll be going the way. They'll be staying hidden. Actually, if you don't demolish the highway or move the highway, that tree will always be hiding. But yes, this definitely feels like a map. It's somebody who almost, I would say, it almost certainly has to have work on the workshop. Who? Don't know. Or maybe they just do a lot of front-line, high-profile work for Paradox or Colossal Order, and maybe we know them. I would say I would be surprised if we haven't seen some of their work elsewhere. But this definitely stands way above the two maps we saw previously in terms of standards. And I'm all about slick standards. Like, here we go. We have an intersection. And this one, if I just swing the camera up there, that's completely different from what we've seen and just feels very nice indeed. Of course, if we were having mass transit, we'd maybe do some lane mathematics on here as well. But keeping this base game plus airports DLC only, that's the best you're going to do. And there's just some very nice work going on there. So I'm okay with that overall. Overall, I'm okay with it. Yes, yeah, there's some tweaking and twiddling that can be done even in vanilla base game. But do you know what? It's good. Now heading around towards the start square. Even the highway layouts and the network layouts on this one feel leaps and bounds above the two previous ones. And we've got some really nice geology, like almost some canyon-esque rivers, which we'll have a look at in a moment. Heading down now towards the next intersection. Let me get you down there, ASAP. And again, a very slick. This is your start square intersection here. Very slickly done. Clean, tidy. Look at these ramps. Nice, smooth ramps. Somebody has made ramps before, and it looks good for it. The highway then does continue over another slick little bridge there, which again, if you look at the pillar placement on that bridge, nothing in the middle of the river. Just slightly on the banks on this side, slightly on the banks on that side. Good work going on there. And then the highway hairs off and goes off to the edge of the map at the top. This intersection, very nice. Very happy with it. Leads us down into the start square, which is here. Which is a bit interesting. It's a little bit interesting. I've no problem with it. It just feels a bit confined, but that's fine. It's fine. And then in terms of where do you want to put your highway, your airport, maybe over here, maybe on the other side of the river. I mean, the options are pretty much wherever you want, really. Just work it as you like. We've got some really nice, interesting features. You can actually see here with these canyons, you actually see the erosion that's been worked into the canyon. The different levels of the river that have worked with this canyon. This canyon feels like it has been eroded away by the river. And that's a really nice thing to see. A very nice thing to see. Whilst we're in this neck of the woods, over here we've got a little oasis, sort of. Oasis in the sand. Slightly dried out lake, I guess. And you're going to see quite a few of the park life glory holes, as I refer to them. Quite a few, and I think they could have been better used. This map feels like it's missing a trick, and I will show you on the very last glory hole what I mean by that. Over here we have rail. Now, it's not very much rail. In fact, there's barely any rail at all. Used to be a quarry, one would think, and in fact you have here this miscoloured land here is ore resources. That's it. That's your ore resources. Actually, there is a little bit more over there. There is a little bit, but we are very patchy on resources on this map. Gotta say, I do like the way that the highway has been run through the lake like this. So lots of just little things like this are very subtle, but very nice work. Very subtle, nice work. Right, we'll be coming back to these islands a little bit later on. We'll have a quick look at the Essential Lighthouse. Ah, isn't she lovely? There she is. Perfect location for an Essential Lighthouse. Yeah, happy with that. Beaches. Now, beaches. We got little beaches like this. This one looks kind of okay. Yeah. Over here, though, this, again, we're probably edging towards the edge of the 25 tiles. But you can see the detailing here goes on beyond. We have some Second World War defences going on here. So this is kind of like a detail worked area. They've gone to the effort of putting rocks down, and there's a little featurette going on over here we'll have a look at in a moment. But looking at the edge of the beach here, you can see how it drops away. You're getting that little bit of cliff texture cutting in there, and it would just be nice. It would just be nice if the slope just worked out just a little bit further before it dropped away, so we didn't get that little bit of cliff texture going on there. Other than that, I like the shape, and again, even with these defences, this feels quite plausible to me. So that's good. Then if we come over here, we have a little featurette, a little comedy featurette down here. Don't know what's going on with this ship, but the captain definitely took a wrong turn. Don't. We've seen dry rivers in one of the first of the maps. We've got a little bit of a dry river here, and you can also make out it probably at one point came down this way, and now we're just left with this little lake down here. So it's good to see some historical shapes to the land. It's all very nice. Rail, the only rail there may be out there. I couldn't find any other rail. Okay, I've spent a lot of time on these three maps, way too much time on these three maps. We have rail here. It looks like it's ore, but this is actually just sand. But again, we have rocks being ready to take away. This does actually connect up with the edge of the map over there. We have an outside connection. If you're having rail on this map, it's going to be coming through here. And yes, we've got one or two trees under the branch line. Okay. River. Liking the river. Got a little bit of an oxbow going on here, which is, again, it's very nice to see. We've got a little bit of dried out river there again. Nice subtle detailing. We've got a few little castle areas as well. Again, it's all very subtle, very tidy. Very just yeah, subtle is the word, I think. It's just like, this is partly of what's left. A little bit of a garden over there as well. That's all good. Then we have, helps me moaning about bridges on the two previous maps. Look at that bridge. Perfectly straddling the canyon. Again, good standards going on there too. Plenty of other little detail areas, like we've got got a little thing going on down there. We've got a little ancient, maybe an altar or something going on down here. There are lots of little featurettes just dotted around to be found. Then we have some very good looking, love the scale on these hills as well. Loving the way the trees just blend up and just make their way onto the tree work is good. This is a creator who's done tree work on mountains before. A few little patches of trees up here in the hills. And then the high point, we have this. When I say the high point on the map, not necessarily the high point of the map, but I like that. At first glance, I wasn't so sure, but I'm kind of more sold on it now, so that's good. Still more to see. We're now going to head down to this part of the river over here, where we got another little castleette over here. Again, very simple, just a nod to what was there once before. And again, we have another one of the glory holes. Park Life glory hole. What lights up down there? Nobody knows. This again is just sand. So if you're thinking, oh great, we can do some oil. Nope, that's your sand there. Now, let's head off to this glory hole that I've done a little bit of extra work to. Right, so first of all, we do have out here. I did say we come back to these islands. A little castleette again, just a simple, sensible, basic, understated. This is all good work. This is all very, very good work. I'm happy with that. Ready for the glory hole, the BonBonB glory hole. See BonBon's glory hole. Probably not something you want to hear every day, but if we come down to this one. I have put a few steam vents down here, steam spawners, And that makes it feel like we have some sort of like geothermal going on this part of the map. I think the glory holes should have steam coming out of them. That's just my opinion. Maybe smoke. But I think anyway that's yeah. I'm not having to go at whoever made this map for missing out on this. This is just something that I thought, how could we make that be a little bit more interesting? That I think is how we could do it. Anyways, so all told, I like the overall shape of the map. I like the overall standards on the highways. I like the shapes of the highways. I like the shapes of the mountains. I like the tree painting. I like the rivers. There is a lot to like. Oh, we haven't quite... let's have a quick look. I haven't had a look at the shipping routes. I genuinely don't know what the shipping routes are going to be like here. Shipping routes are fine. None too exciting, but fine. Some potential for possible sharp turning of shipping, depending on where you put your harbour. If you were to say put a harbour here, maybe the ships might want to do a sharp turn there. It's a very slim chance. And of course we have air routes on all of the maps because it's an Airports DLC map. Anyway, let's head back over here to settle the camera down while I give you my very brief final overview of the three maps and what I'm thinking. So overall, if the brief was to make three very different maps suitable for airport builds, well, we've definitely ticked the boxes there. Interesting and different are definitely the two words I would use for the maps. I would say we're still not quite at the level of the very top maps on the workshop. I think that's a slight understatement. But the third map, Noyou Port, this one stands up on its own. The other two are still fine and definitely playable. So I think if you've got console and you're looking for some new and slightly different maps, and definitely airport maps, it's definitely a pack worth looking at. In terms of the content creator pack, which I told you right at the start of the show, if you were paying attention, we will be doing the reviews on those maps sometime in the near future. I'll do them as soon as I can, but there's 8 maps for me to go over on top of the daily map reviews I do on this channel. So you know what to do. Like, comment, subscribe, notification bell, and I'll be in your face every single day. Thank you very much for your support. I've been BonBonB. You've been very, very welcome, and I'll see you again, hopefully, very, very soon. Thanks for watching.